Remember, somebody told me a long time ago, man, you got to be careful with assumptions. You got to be careful with assuming, because if not, it will cost you. Assumptions and assuming will cost you to look like the first three letters of the word, which is an ass. Will cost you to look like an ass. So you got to think about, I started thinking about, how long have I been looking like an ass over the past 50 years of my life? Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your man, Coach Toby J, and you are listening to the Changemaker Playbook Podcast. And this is the podcast where I believe if you shift your mindset, you will shift the outcomes in your life. Growth without change is impossible. Season 2, I am pumped to the max, okay? Because there's a lot of things on my mind that I want to talk about. I'm going to bring some guests on here during this season. But there's a lot of things on my mind that I want to talk about this season. This season, I'm moving from audio only to YouTube also. So you can also go watch this on YouTube, Changemaker Playbook Podcast, or you can listen to it on audio like you've been listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I want to jump right into this episode. This year, 2025, I turned 50. Yeah, I turned 50. You can go ahead and applaud. You can applaud that I turned 50. And there's a lot of things I've seen in the past 50 years of my life. It's amazing some of the things that I've seen over the past 50 years of my life. But before I even move in that direction, I want to ask you a question, maybe a couple of questions. And I want you to really think about this and sit down and reflect on the question and really come up with an answer or two when it comes to these questions. Okay, here's what I want to ask you. When you think about specific challenges or areas, and here's the thing, I want you to think about maybe one specific challenge. I just want you to think about one specific area, meaning I want you to think about when you think about your family, when you think about your health, when you think about your career, your job, when you think about your finances, when you think about your faith, when you think about relationship, I want you just to pinpoint one. Right now, just pinpoint one. And if you're dealing with something currently right now, let that be the one. Let that one be the one. I want you to think about that particular area or that particular challenge and what beliefs or assumptions dominate your thinking right now concerning that challenge or that area. Right now, what belief dominates it? What assumption dominates that thinking? Okay? Whether or not it's in your faith, what's dominating your thinking when it comes to your faith? What's dominating your thinking when it comes to your family? What's dominating your thinking when it comes to your job? What's dominating your thinking when it comes to, relationships or that particular specific relationship? What's dominating it, okay? Belief or assumption that's dominating it. And is this current mindset, these beliefs or these assumptions that's dominating your thinking, is it catapulting you forward or limiting or holding you back from the outcomes you truly desire? Okay? Is that mindset that you currently have right now producing the outcome that you truly desire? Think about it. What outcomes are you getting right now in that particular area based on the mindset you have? And is this mindset tied to the outcomes you're getting? Shift your mind, shift your outcomes. I want you to really think about that, because this is something that I have been thinking about since I turned 50. Yeah, since I turned 50. So one of the easiest things to do is get other people advice, right? It's easy. It's easy. We do great. We expert. When it comes to other people's business, we experts, literally. But we struggle with self-examination. We struggle with that, but we're expert when it comes to other people's business. I remember somebody came up to me one time. They was in a situation. They was going through some things, and they didn't know what they want, what they wanted to do, what they should do. And I asked them a question. Just asked them a question. I said, if you had a friend or if I was in that situation, what would you tell me? What advice would you give me? Boy, they just started running off because, like I said, we're experts when it comes to other people's situation. And they just started telling me everything that they would tell me or they would tell that friend. You know what I mean? Like somebody in a bad relationship or in a relationship, they just bad. But when somebody's in a relationship per se, it's like we know what to tell them. You in a bad dude, you need to watch that. Or girl, you need to watch this. And you start telling them what it is that they probably need to do. When this person was doing that, telling me everything that they would tell me I should do. And when they got finished, I said, there's your answer. Now figure out a way to implement that to your life. And it first comes with shifting your mindset. Because you're not getting the outcome that you truly desire. So therefore, you need to, first of all, begin to shift your mindset in that area so you can begin to start seeing the outcome that you truly desire. It's amazing when we think about the outcomes that I have seen over the past 50 years, not just in my personal life, I'm gonna get into that, but just culturally, from a technology standpoint. I was talking to somebody and we was in this conversation and we started looking at the TV for some reason. All this stuff that was on the TV, I didn't know how to work. And like, man, all this stuff on this TV. And I said, I remember a time when TV just cut off. Just cut off. Person was like, what are you talking about? Cut off. I said, cut off. And I ain't talking about like power off. I'm talking about it will come on towards the end of the night and say, we have come to the end of the National Broadcasting Day. And then it will literally say, and now your national anthem, and put the flag across the screen, black and white. Play the national anthem, and then shh, white noise, cut off. Now, what I can't tell you is, because I really don't know. I don't know what time it came back on. Because every time I woke up, it was back on. But we only could watch certain programs. We had to go up to the TV and turn it. Had an antenna with foil on it. That stuff was real. Like, some of y'all have no clue what I'm talking about. None. I get it. There were some things my parents used to tell me, people used to tell me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. What you mean you used to sit up in the booth to watch the movie? Black people. I don't even know what you mean. Sit in the back of the bus. You did what? I have no idea what they're talking about because I never experienced that. But like over the past 50 years of my life, man, I have seen some crazy things from a technology standpoint. Think about what we've seen, even with this in my hand, this phone right here in my hand. It was landline, pay phones. And now I got a computer in my hand. You know, I was reading a statistic. Let me share something with you real quick. I was reading a statistic about how human knowledge is, how it doubles, how it's doubling. And it said in 1992, human knowledge doubled every 12 to 13 months. Every 12, so basically every year versus every century. That's interesting. Now, today, human knowledge doubles every 12 hours. Every 12 hours, human knowledge is doubling. And the reason for this is, of course, who would have known that sci-fi actually would exist, meaning artificial intelligence, things like AI, things like we got better data. Then you got countries working together, global collaboration. You got all of these elements in play now that is causing human knowledge to double. Isn't it amazing? Like when you go on a trip, you can go travel and you're traveling and you put on maps on your phone, you know, you need directions and you put on maps. It's amazing to me that I could be driving and 20 miles up the road, so all of a sudden somebody has a wreck, and my maps begins to go into this process of rerouting, like on the spot. We got satellites in space rerouting on the spot, letting me know. Then all of a sudden I see a little yellow, then I see a little red. I'm like, crap. As long as it stay yellow, I'm cool. So that means it's just caution. It's just slow. Traffic still moving. But when that thing turn red, you be like, man, you better check your gas, because you don't know how long you might be sitting in traffic, right? It's amazing. Versus back in the day when you had MapQuest or you just had word of mouth when it came to directions. You would go into a convenience store and get a map. Things like that, although they may still exist, but they're almost irrelevant. They're almost obsolete because of the doubling of knowledge. One thing could be in play on Sunday, and then next Sunday or a month from that Sunday be irrelevant. Why? Because we don't learn something else. We're just building on top of what it is we learned. And now we're moving into this, we're moving into that. It's knowledge is just doubling, and some people are just falling behind. So, like I told my girls, you got to learn how to adapt. We got to learn how to adjust to change. You got to be quick on your feet, especially in this culture we live in America, because human knowledge is constantly doubling. Jobs that you currently had back in the day, they're like playing out. Factory jobs, factory jobs are still there, but it's not like your most prioritized jobs that people want. They want service jobs. They want to do like I'm doing right now. You know? Because human knowledge is constantly doubling. It's amazing how you got to adjust. And one of the things you got to adjust is your mindset. Because if you don't adjust your mindset, you will not see the outcomes that you truly desire in the day you're living in. And I believe if you are living in this day, that you are equipped to deal with human knowledge doubling every 12 hours. I believe that you are equipped to deal with things like AI. I believe that. There's going to be pros and cons to all of this. But the question is going to be, are you going to adapt to it? That's where this mindset comes into play. One of the things I learned, I'm going to get into this right here, and then I'm going to jump off his podcast because I want to share something with you real quickly. There's a lot of things I can share with you, and I will share with you over this season. But one of the things I learned, one of the questions I ask is, what are the beliefs or the assumptions that are dominating your life? One of the things, when I look back over my life and I take that self-examination and I step back and reflect some things about my life over the past 50 years, one of the things I realized that dominated my life, assumptions. One of the most negative things that dominated my life, that held me back, that limited me, assumptions. I remember somebody told me a long time ago, man, you got to be careful with assumptions. You got to be careful with assuming, because if not, it will cost you assumptions, and assuming will cost you to look like the first three letters of the word, which is an ass. It will cost you to look like an ass. So you got to think about, I started thinking about, how long have I been looking like an ass over the past 50 years of my life because of assumptions? And now I'm not seeing the outcomes that I truly desire because I'm allowing assumptions to dominate my life. Let me give you a definition for assumption. Okay? Let me give you a definition for assumption, because this is important. Assumptions are fun. Let me backtrack. Assumptions are foundational. I want to say fundamental so bad. But listen, assumptions are foundational beliefs, premises, or propositions that are accepted as true without immediate proof or verification. Let me just stop right there. Foundational beliefs. Assumptions can lead to foundational beliefs or premises that are accepted as true without immediate proof of verification. So when I look back over my life, I think about how many assumptions have I allowed to dominate my life because I assumed something that was not true. And I never went back and examined it. I need you to think about that right now. Like, how many things in your life right now have you accepted? They become foundational. It's foundational now in your life. One of the worst things I hate to see is when people send that skeleton emoji, dead. Yeah, they assume that they cannot go any further. They assume that they cannot grow. They assume that this is not going to work. Why? Because they have allowed something, a belief system, to come into their life that they have accepted, and now they're allowing something that is not true to govern and dominate their mindset. Let me keep reading. Accepting that's true without immediate proof or verification, serving, check this out, as starting points for reasoning, decision making, and argumentation. Assumptions are, now this is interesting. Assumptions are essential for building logical structures, but carry inherent risk if unexamined. Assumptions, essential for building logical structures. Have you ever sit down and say, you know what? You're assuming, you ain't completely sure, but all the pieces are lining up. It's logical. All the pieces, it got to be talking. Have you ever seen somebody, maybe at the church, or you seen somebody in the parking lot talking to maybe a dude talking to a girl, or you maybe see this person at a restaurant and you just like, I saw so-and-so together and I think they talking. Or, you know, I didn't get that loan, or I didn't get that financial backing, so I guess this is dead. I guess this is not going to work. You know, this didn't work out. This relationship didn't work out, so I'm assuming that none of my relationships are going to work out. See, assumptions, the problem with assumptions is not that they're sometimes wrong. The problem with assumption is never realizing that the assumption, let me backtrack. The problem with assumptions is never realizing the assumption until it's too late. It's never realizing the assumption until it's too late. It's not that they're sometimes wrong. It's just that you never realize that this is an assumption until it's too late. For example, let me give you some assumptions that we tend to make. I assume that this person didn't like me, so I avoided them, but it turns out they was just shy. You missed out on a relationship with somebody that could have helped you because you thought somebody didn't like you. I don't know how many people I get around. A lot of times they'd be like, they don't like me. How you know they don't like you? I just feel like they don't like me. How do you know that? I'm assuming. And then they start giving, they break down their argument. You breaking it because then you try to look at the logical steps. That's what we talked about. We start looking at the logical steps and you start breaking down all of these unassumed facts that are not really true. They could be facts, but it may not be true. You got all these facts that's leading to all of this logical ending, but you ain't examined it. You ain't even go ask them. Just assume that they didn't like you. Think about it. I believe success has to look a certain way until you found out that there's more than one way. Success ain't just always linear. There's not this one formula. It's not this one formula, ABC, is not the same formula that may work for everybody. You got to be careful with making assumptions. Because see, you can overgeneralize some stuff. and assume that what you're saying is for everybody. I got a friend who always said, you got to be careful with blanket statements. And you do. You got to be careful with blanket statements. You got to be careful with hidden assumptions. Hidden assumptions are like unconscious bias, where that could have been passed down to you. So I think we're living in a time now where we have a lot of unconscious bias because something was passed down to us, and now it turns into overgeneralizing, especially when it comes to a group of people in life. And now you think everybody like that because this person had a bad experience, or this person thought this particular way about that person or that group of people. And then you overgeneralize. You think the whole group is like that. Assumptions. And the problem with assumptions, again, it's not that they're sometimes wrong. It's that sometimes we never realize the assumption until it's too late. What if the thing that you are assuming, what if it's the opposite? The thing that you're assuming that this person don't like me, what if it turns out it's the opposite? What if this person loved you? Really, they've been wanting to talk to you. They've been wanting to connect with you. And they're assuming the same thing about you. Assumptions that I can't do this. You had a bad relationship. Now you're assuming that you can't have a good one. Bad thinking. Assuming that everybody is doing what it is you're wanting to do. So therefore, there's no way I'm going to be able to make it in that arena. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it in that area. So you do what? I'm not going to do it. Your thinking begins to change, and you know that you got some revelation. You know you got some perspective and some knowledge about life. But because you know that it might go against the current, you keep it to yourself because you assume that people are not going to receive it. Assumptions. Do not allow assumptions to dominate your life. Identify the assumptions in your life today, right now, that could be dominating your life. And you need to examine that assumption and see whether or not it's true or not. Because you may come to find out it's not true. And that assumption is holding you back. It's dominating your life. You're not seeing the outcomes that you want to see in your life. Why? Because you're living in a place of assumptions. I want you to challenge your assumptions. I know my assumptions in my life held me back. One of the biggest assumptions that held me back, especially when it came athletically, I was a football guy and I could just never get big. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm too little. I'll never make it to the next level. I'm too little. I'm fast, but I won't never make it to the next. I won't be able to make it. Some big dudes. And I allow that assumption in my mind that can tend to turn into fear to dominate my life. Set me back. Assuming nobody's going to listen to me. I'm going to do a podcast. Ain't nobody going to listen to me. Everybody doing a podcast. Challenge the assumptions. Challenge the assumptions. Shift your mindset. Shift your outcome. This is your man, Coach Toby J. You've been listening to the Changemaker Playbook Podcast. God bless you.